Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are back. Spiritual Experience. Hope you guys are doing well. What do I always say? However you are, whomever you are, wherever you are. I don't know, maybe that's like some kind of silly moniker. Who knows? It doesn't matter. I'm grateful you're here. I love you all. If you see me around, say hello, give me a hug. It's nothing better than hugs are great, man. There's nothing better than a hug. I just got off the phone with one of my boys, this kid Theo, who's incredible. And he's going to meetings on Zoom, AA meetings or whatever, 12-step meetings. People cry about anonymity. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get too far into the weeds with that shit. You know, I just don't. And it's like, whatever, man. I'm in recovery for a long time. There's a lot of people that can do a lot of things, but this thing, the recovery thing, that this I know pretty well. I'm like a wizard at this shit, and it's funny when I listen to other other things. I listen to sometimes speakers on like YouTube and whatever. But either way, so I was telling my boy Theo about the in-person meetings I go to, and I was like, dude, there is nothing that's better than an AA hug. Straight up. What did I say? I said it's like warm cookies. You know, you go into a room with people, and these are your people, and you give them a hug. Oh my God, bro. It's incredible. And NA, what do they say? Hugs, not drugs, right? And I remember the first couple of NA meetings I went to because they hugged right away. And I don't know everybody. I'm opening this can, so sorry if you can hear it. There we go. And that is not, hopefully not triggering for anybody. Ha ha. Either way, yeah, in NA, man, everybody's fucking hugging each other. The first few times I went, I was like, geez. I put out my hand to give somebody a handshake or fit, whatever. Some other kind of greeting than just a hug. And here we are. And they would they put their arm. Now I can't not hug them if they're coming towards me with their arms stretched out. I'm like, fuck, now I got to hug this guy. I don't even know him. Whereas like the people that I hug in AA is because I know them. And it doesn't take a lot for me to get to know somebody enough to hug them. But hugging strangers, yeah, I guess maybe for a while it was a little tough for me. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah, so that was a nice conversation. And, we were just talking about, allowing the Lord into your life for some relief, for some guidance, that everything is attached to a string and that kind of stuff. And, we were talking about different, different speakers that we listen to on YouTube and that are related to recovery. And then I was challenged the other day by one of my boys, because I've been chewing on listening to other recovery-based podcasts. I know that I interview people here one-on-one, and that seems like that's half of the theme, is experience, strength, and hope, listening to people in recovery. What are their stories? How can you maybe relate, even if you are an alcoholic or addict or not, that the feelings... try to identify with the feelings, not with the facts of the story. Maybe you didn't have to lose your kids or something to know what it's like to feel ashamed and that kind of stuff. And maybe that shame or that guilt of whatever it is or whatever is what's stopping you from being great on this earth. Because that's what we need to do. We all got to try and be great. It's not just about survival. It's really about how do we want to spend our time here? Do we want to just keep putzing around, or do we want to be happy? Do we want to give happiness with the interactions that we have with other people? Do we want them to be, positive? That's my thing. My thing is like, bro, I want everybody to have a positive experience when they interact with me. And it doesn't mean that I have to, I guess, tackle or hug people with all the love. But I can bring, I'm not going to say unassuming. I don't know the word. I can bring non-confrontational energy where people, if you're around me, you don't have to protect yourself from anything. I'm not after anything. Nobody's gunning for you. I'm not gunning for you. I'm happy that you're at where you're at. But I'm also a human being. And this is where this challenge came in. So I was, because we do get a lot of feedback, and I am grateful for all of you who are listening. And if you want to give us some feedback, you can find us on Instagram. You can send me a message there. You can email. We get some emails, which are pretty cool. And I'll give you the email address right now. It's the Spiritual Experience 79, all basically one word, at gmail.com. Look at that. There's like 15 people here that send emails. So, yeah, you can do that. And we can communicate that way. And if you want me to talk about whatever we're emailing about, we can totally do that on air. Or if you just want me to send something back to you, that's fine. Maybe you respect a little bit about, my flavor of recovery, which is, I've earned, here comes the ego. But this is true. Bro, I've earned the right to have these opinions. And I've earned the right to, I've earned that right. I've been around a long time and not like in and out of recovery rooms, 12-step rooms. I've been in them, like not come for a couple of weeks, a meeting here, a meeting there, not like a barfly. Like the heads that know me, they know me. When I go into meetings or whatever, even meetings I haven't been to, there'll be people that will know who I am. And I'm not like a famous guy, but I've been around a long time for a young person, I guess. I'm 43. I'm in my 19th year of active recovery, which means meetings, service, all of that stuff. Loudly making myself known and also making myself known quietly by sharing my experiences and sharing my failures and all of my successes. I've grown up in recovery, and I've grown up in these rooms, and whether it's AA or NA or CA, whatever, people get offended, bro. I mostly go to AA. And even though I'm a full-blown drug addict and a full-blown alcoholic, I can get addicted to anything. That's the truth. So the point was that this is a good test of my willingness and a litmus test of, am I really walking the walk or am I just like ready? So I decided to try and listen to a few different other recovery-based podcasts, allegedly, if that's what they are. I don't know. I went on Spotify, and I started listening to a few, and then I asked my other friends who had been on a few of them which ones they recommend, and I listened to a bunch, and initially, because it's not at first, when I first started this show, I was like, I don't want to listen to anybody else's shit because I want to. The truth is that I'm judgmental of both other people and of myself because I'm a human. And I don't trust anybody who says that they don't judge themselves or don't judge other people harshly. Like, that's like ridiculous. You may it may not be too crazy, but to say, no, I don't judge anybody, fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? I don't believe you. Or even if you do, good for you. There's no way, then that is one way that you and I cannot connect, because I connect with people in that way. We're like, okay, initially I was scared to listen to other shows because I didn't want to be, I could have easily been influenced by what they're doing. My show could sound a little bit like theirs, and then a little bit like this one, and then take some of this one, instead of just me being myself, you know, because I am a human and I can be influenced, and I happen, because I'm an addict, and because I'm an addict, dude, we are freaking gullible. We're gullible like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, so I'm gullible and I'm impulsive, and I can be led easily. So I have to be, I have to know that about myself. So that's why I just didn't do it until yesterday. And yesterday I listened, and I want everyone to find what works for them. And I want everyone to be happy. And I want their sobriety and their recovery to be a success. Oh, I just burped. Sorry. Yeah, that's what I want. I want that. And I had to get past my own ego to like even listen to that, because I'm like, oh, this guy fucking doesn't know anything. He doesn't. He don't got it. That's what I was saying. I'm like, oh, he don't got it. He don't got it. And then I'm listening, you know, and I'm just going through the motions, but I'm surrendering. Like this guy is, whoever the person is, they're just giving a synopsis or an account of what works for them. And some of it I found like repulsing. Is that the word? Repulsing? Yeah. I was repulsed. So some of it I found like repulsing. And I remember when I don't know how much time I had. Maybe I had 3 years or 5 years or something. And I was somewhat like them, without the misery. Like I was never miserable in recovery for prolonged periods of time. Like I had days of depression. This is the first season then, and oddly enough, this is when I have my show that I'm working through this kind of stuff with you guys. Where like, yeah, I've been like blue, man, and I feel like an idiot that I talk about it all the time, because I guess it's not gone all the way yet. But I'm operating at like 80%, which is okay, man. I'm good with that. I'm good. I know this is gonna pass, because normally, bro, I'm like 120%. Sun is shining all the time, like the Bob Marley song. Sun is shining. Boop, boo, doo, doo, doo. I don't know the words. Here I am. Yeah, so that's me. So, and people who know me know that that's me. You know, so maybe that's not me every single day anymore. Either way, so this kid or this guy, yeah, just don't subscribe to his brand of recovery and his ideas about how he believes the program should be, you know, or his interpretation of the program. And when people start talking like that, I'm like, you know, like, dude, you don't have it. You have maybe the books memorized, and you have the, what do you call it? You have the AA slang memorized, but you don't have the experience. So that means those are words on a paper. They're not words from your life. And that is the difference between people who have, quote unquote, sobriety or recovery, and people who maybe just have sobriety. And I can't fault them, because they don't have enough time to have that experience. I think one guy had like 5 years or something, and that's nothing to sneeze at. And congratulations for him. Congratulations for anybody who's even trying to get sober. I know it's, sometimes I get very touchy about that, because being in recovery and being involved in like 12-step programs and that stuff, it goes in and out of these waves of being like cool. Like, yeah, I'm sober now. Yeah, I haven't had a drink in 30 days, in 22 days. I'm sober now. And I just want to like throw up when I hear that stuff, because I can, because I just say to myself, okay, is this like something that you're just trying, you're milling around, or do you really have a problem? Or is it because it's in the media everywhere that celebrities are sober, and there's all these different kinds of recovery, and all these different ways to recover. That's what I meant. There's all these different ways. Now the people that I'm talking about, and it's not just, it happened to be because I was listening on this podcast, or a couple. I listened to, I think, 2 or 3 different ones. But I get this feeling all the time when I'm in meetings too. I'm like, oh, this guy, he don't got it, But hopefully if he keeps coming and he keeps trying, he will get it. But he don't got it. This is a spiritual program. This is a program that has an equation that will lead you to incorporating a power greater than yourself that will help you solve your problems in life. And if you are an addict and an alcoholic, drugs and alcohol are not your problem. Your problem is actually life. That life is too much for you, that you cannot handle life sober. That's what qualifies you to be where we are. That you need to drink, whether it's every day, every other day, like whatever. Like you cannot handle unadulterated life. And then once you realize, that's part of the disease. The other part is that you become physically, emotionally, and mentally dependent on whatever substance that gives you that little bit of relief. So that way you can face whatever you need to face, which is actually life. And once you have that dependency, it's over. That's it. Once you're a pickle, you can't go back to being a cucumber. It's a very famous saying that people say in the rooms. So now that people have been saved, there's like all these books, and everybody's like telling their tale of woe. And I shouldn't say that, their tale of woe. It's like it's like showing off, like you're being like a rock star. Like, oh yeah, I'm in recovery now. And then I listen to them. I'm like, yeah, you're in recovery, but you don't have it. Well, what do you mean? What are you doing? What are you saying? How are you living? How are you living? And that's the difference with people who have time and people who do not have time. Because rather quickly, which means in a year, it could be in a couple of years, that I'm just not drinking or I'm just not drugging is going to wear off. And you are going to have to make something out of your life. And when you have to make something out of your life, if it's a relationship with another person, if it's a new career, if it's a job, if it's a place in society where you can belong, where you don't find it necessary to even think about drinking or drugging, that you can just be your actually authentic human being self, you're going to have to make that. Like that place doesn't exist where you just show up one day, you knock on the door and everybody's there. You have a career, you have a spouse, you have a place in society that you are comfortable in, and you understand, and people understand you, and people love you, and you love them effectively, and then you are prospering, you are being great, you are giving back to your community. That is not behind like door number 3. That is something that you have to actually go out there and build for yourself. Nobody hands that to you. Unless like you have, like one of the episodes was like a kid, and the kid goes to like a very strict group in Manhattan. I don't want to say their names, but you know the name of the group if you know. They are very, very strict, like AA. Like if they are the ISIS of AA, this group. They're like, And I've been to like a few of their meetings, and they have one way. And the one way works for whomever stays there. And the people that I run into from that meeting, or the times that I've been there, they haven't really seemed very happy. And it's a little bit of the flavor of the meeting is like we're strict on recovery and on the book and this and that, but it's also like a breeding ground. Like it's in Manhattan, and the people who go there, they dress up. They're looking to couple up in there. It's like wild. It's like a scene. That's what I want to call it. It's like a scene. And apparently they have a similar group that's on the West Coast. And when I hear them, again, I'm like repulsed. Like this guy was talking about in the meeting. He was just like, oh, I want to go to, he says, I go to solution-driven meetings. I'm like, what does that mean? I know what it means, but I want to know what it means to this kid. Let's say kid. Anybody who has less time than me is a kid. That's what I say. Because that's just how it goes. Yeah. Either way, so this kid was like, yeah, I go to solution-driven meetings. I go to meetings, we talk about this, and this. We talk about the steps. We talk about, and that's it. Nobody wants to hear what's going on with your cat. That's what he said. What's going on with your cat or your relationship or your job. This is about recovery, and this is about this stuff. And I was like, oh, my God. This guy, he doesn't have a life. That's why he says that. He has nothing. All he has is not drinking, doing step work, and then going to meetings and taking other people through step work. I call that hiding out in AA. There are people who just hide out in the rooms, and it makes them feel important. Somebody new comes in, and they are desperate. And they're like, listen, you got to do a beep. And I'll say, wow, man, this is what you're doing with your life? You're just doing this. Because if you were trying to do anything else with the rest of humanity, you're going to realize that a little bit at a time, that nothing is an exact science. That it's not 2 plus, I was just talking about with Theo, 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4 at all. At all. Like when you involve humans, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. 2 plus 2 equals 4 when it's just math, numbers on paper. That's it. Everywhere else, there's always the gray area. So this guy, he was just like talking this shit. I'm like, dude, this guy's he's on step fucking 0. That's what I call people like that. He's on step 0. Then I'm like, oh, but what's the truth? Here I am looking down on him, and I got to learn to love him. I got to learn to love him, And I did. By the end of his story, I'm like, oh, he's going to have a dose of humble pie. Unless he just comes from a very rich family that just takes care of him, and he doesn't have to do anything or be anything. All his bills will be paid for. And then he'll have to find other ways, other challenges in his life to find out what kind of human he is. Because if not, he's just existing. Making money is not, is not really, not saying it's not a motivating factor, but like how much money do you really need? Like all your bills are being paid. That's step 1. Step 2, being able to save a little bit of money, invest a little bit of money. And if that means you got to pare back your life, that's what it means. To be comfortable. Comfortable for me means that if something bad really happens, I don't have to have it all on my own. I have support and love from other people who will help me along the way because I help other people along the way. But I'm also responsible, or I try not to live above my means and that kind of stuff. And I learned that in sobriety. And this kid he has yet to learn that lesson, because he's over here talking shit when people are in the rooms talking about what's going on in their life, where he doesn't have a life yet. So all he's talking about is, I'm on step 6 and step 7 and this and that. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. You know, I wanted to just pray for him. But at the same time, here he is on this show where the other guy's like, just like ball washing him. That's what I call it. I'm sure you'll get sick of that term. I'll find something else that's a little bit more dramatic. A little more dramatic than ball washing, but that's what it sounds like. He's like, oh yeah. And it's like, I don't, you know, he's all this, he was basically co-signing this kid's stuff. And then when he lets it off, like how much time he has, I'm like, oh, this guy doesn't even have 10 years or whatever. You know, they have like these little cliche sayings that it takes 5 years to get your brains back. And that's true. It takes 5 years. You have, in the first 5 years of my recovery, then I found out what I was made of. To not drink and not do drugs when everything is burning down is easy. Because pain is the motivator. And then you get a new lease on life. And then you get addicted to that. And you're just like, yeah, man, this is my life now. Now I'm sober. Wah, wah, wah. Right? And then once you realize that you become responsible and accountable for your life, the first step says we are powerless over alcohol or our addiction, whatever you want to call it. We are powerless, and our life becomes unmanageable, and our life had become unmanageable, right? That's what it says, legit. We, first word of the first step is we, not me, right? Now, the powerlessness is very evident by the time you get into a folding chair in a room full of people you don't know, and you're throwing $1 in the basket, begging for help and taking people's numbers and reading the stuff and praying and doing inventories and doing the step work and going and making amends and meditating and praying. You're doing all of this stuff, right? And then your life starts to get put back together a little bit at a time, you know. But it's a very easy life because all you got to do is not drink. You come to meetings and you try to help somebody in the rooms, right? Then after a couple of years, then you think, this is what happened for me. And it's happened. I've never seen it not happen. So my joke is always like, oh, it's easier to get 1 year than stick around for 2. Because after 1 year, now the house isn't on fire anymore. So now we see if you really learned anything about this disease. And see if you maybe even really, you might not even have it. You might be able to go out there and smoke some weed. You might be able to go out there and go see a shrink and get some Klonopins or some other stuff and numb out. And it might be okay for you, right? Because now the house is not on fire. And you have this thing that we call a built-in forgetter, which means that if you go long enough without remembering or being reminded of how sick you really are, you're going to pick up. You're going to repeat the sins. You're gonna go back out there with a vengeance. They're saying this is a disease that tells you that you don't have a disease. That's what it is. You know? The other way, I joke with myself that I'm so sick that I think I'm well. That's how sick I am that I think I'm well. And then one more time, my favorite song, the AANA Recovery CA whatever anthem, is the Do It Again from, who is that? Steely Dan. I listen to that song all the time. You know? It's an incredible song. That was my life. Back, Jack, do it again. Bow, 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 round and round. Yeah, I can't sing, but I don't care. You guys get the thing. Especially when he's talking about the chick, right? What does he say? He says, then you love a little wild one, and she brings you only sorrow. all the time. She's smiling. You'll be on your knees tomorrow. And you go back, Jack, do it again. Wheels turning round and round. Yeah, I love that. That's like, bro, that's the story of my life. You can replace that woman with vodka, with anger, with everything. Like, with everything. That's the story of my life. This time it's going to be different. That's what the brain tells me. It's an unbelievable lie. So back to that first step talk, where the second part of the first step, my life is unmanageable. Eventually, think about what I'm talking about with the word powerless. It means that it is beyond your power. There is nothing you can do. Again, you are a pickle. You are no longer a cucumber. It's over. Tap out. Whatever. Right? The bell has rung. You cannot unring the bell. Okay? But, there's always a but. But, now, because you have this community and you have these people and you have this way out, a way out, a way out. I have that tattooed on my arm, a way out, 164. You guys know the deal. So, you have a way out now. Now you are legit not powerless over how unmanageable your life is. It's easy to blame drugs and alcohol and be like, dude, yeah, man, I can't get my credit together. I can't get this job together. I don't know what I want to be. Life has passed me by. I don't like my job. I don't like my spouse. I don't like this life. But this is who I am. Now, you are no longer powerless over that. Now it's on you. Now it's on you. What are you going to do now? Who are you going to be? I talk about that all the time. The first 6 steps of the program says we love you for who you are. We get it. This is who you are. This is who you are. And we understand. And all of those things are valid. But the 7th through 12th step, AA offers you, or 12 steps or whatever. I'm just going to keep saying AA, and if you get offended, go fuck yourself. Sorry about the anonymity, whatever. This is where I got the information. I didn't get it from my own brain. No, but you know what I'm saying? And there's all this other stuff. People ask me, oh, what about anonymity? I'm like, well, whatever, bro. We're spreading love. We're trying to help people. This is not, nobody's making money here. I do this show because I don't need the money. That's why I can do the show. I don't need it at all. At all. I'm going to start not having sponsors, but I'm going to have other, I guess what would be like an ad for some other type of shit that I'm not being paid for anything that I would recommend to anybody else, whether it's a book. My boy Tommy Fick's book was unbelievable. We're going to have him back here. I told you, we're going to have him back to do like a synopsis and a few of the chapters. And I can pepper him with this stuff. And it's been a while since he wrote the book, so he's going to have some more insight and a lot more growth. And Tommy Figs is an incredible human being, and I love him. He's my brother. And if he sells 10 more books or 10,000 more books, I don't want $1. I don't get a penny. I don't want it. I know because it's helpful. That's why there's no cameras. That's why I don't use my real name. That's why some of these people, some of them don't use their real names. Because this is not a business. I have a business. I got a few of them. A few things we're working on. But, yeah, so this is for the love, man. This is for the love. Yeah, so you are no longer powerless over how unmanageable your life is. And that's a very scary proposition. It's very scary because now we're about to see what you're made of. Now you're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to try and do some stuff. Like live without what the program tells you and teaches you is that not the only way, but from their analysis and mine, the best way to stay away from picking up the first drink or drug is to try your hardest to live a life without any guilt, shame, or remorse. Now, guilt, shame, and remorse from selfish actions, not just from you making a mistake. I've made mistakes and I felt bad, but I was not close to drinking over them, not even a thought. But there's times where I fucking played in the dirt. You play in the dirt, you get dirty. Shout out to McNulty. That's where that came from. Yeah, you play in the dirt, you get dirty. Now that kind of guilt and that kind of shame is bringing me closer to a drink, because I'm going to need to anesthetize that feeling of guilt, because I know that it was with intention. And even if it wasn't with intention to hurt somebody, it was with disregard to somebody else for my own personal, emotional well-being. That's what that is. So to try and put a life together where you're showing up every day, you're going to work, you're showing up every day on time, and you get no acknowledgement for that. You're like, what the fuck? I'm showing up here every day on time. I'm actually doing my work. I'm not disappearing. I'm taking the breaks when I'm supposed to. I'm back when I'm supposed to. I'm being kind and loving towards all. And this is not going my way. I'm not getting the promotion. The dirtbag or dirtbag woman, whatever, non-gender specific, who is an animal, is getting ahead. And here I am, right? And then you start to question yourself. Say, listen, but I don't understand. You know, when I worked in a bank. And let me tell you something. I loved the people that I worked with there, some of them. And some of them I'm still very good friends with to this day. The manager of that branch, unbelievable guy. I love him. Terry. I love him. I'll shout him out, Terry Scott. He's the man. He is the man. But anyway, there were definitely people cutting corners in that institution, not just in my branch, just in general. And guess what? They were getting the bonuses, and they were getting promoted, and they were getting more money. And there were people who were not. And I can see how dejected that would make somebody. Like, oh, I don't understand. Now I'm sober. I'm doing the right thing. And the world is not complying. It's not going my way. Because what did I say? Experience. Now somebody's gaining experience. Right? They're finding out that 2 + 2 is only 4 on the paper. It's not 4 on earth. There are other people involved. And there are other people's motives involved. And do you have enough faith and enough, what do you call it? Yeah. Do you have enough faith? Do you have enough perseverance to do the right thing anyway? And say, listen, in the long run, you're playing the long game when you do this. In the long run, I am going to be better. And it doesn't mean financially. Maybe just better for me is that I am going to be able to sleep at night without living with guilt, shame, and remorse from doing that kind of stuff. And that's why people come to meetings and they talk about, I used to raise my hand and I used to be like, I'm Jay, I'm alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, and I cannot stop stealing from my job. With years of recovery, I was doing that because I needed help. I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't there yet. I was as good as I could be, including asking for help. You know, I couldn't be faithful to a partner, to a woman. I keep saying partners like it. Listen, to a woman. I'm saying partners in case some of you guys, you know, doodle outside the line. And there's no judgment. You got to get it however you like it. There's no, I don't care. As long as they're of age and they're not related to you, I'm in. Okay? And as long as you're happy and, you know, we always have one rule, no punching in the face. That's a joke, by the way. So, yeah, live free. Do what you got to do. But my incessant need to feel secure wouldn't allow me to be in a relationship for a prolonged period of time, which means longer than 6 months, without having some kind of backup plan somewhere. You know, maybe it was my age. I was in my 20s and in my 30s. Well, not my 30s. Well, my 20s and maybe early 30s, up until I met my, you know, the love of my life. You guys already know who she is. Yeah. So, yeah. And my first relationship in sobriety, right? I came into the rooms I had. So for the first couple of years I was living with somebody. I told this story already. And if you haven't heard it, I don't know what episode it's in, so whatever. You're going to hear it again. Too fucking bad, bro. Yeah, so I was with somebody. And whatever. It didn't work out after a couple of years. But we were living together. I got sober with this person. They were already in my life. So my first real relationship was after that one. First time me being single in sobriety. I had like 3 years or something. Anyway, so I dated this girl 6 months, and I did all of that stuff, man. I mean, not the bad stuff. I did all of the good stuff. I showed up on time. Got flowers on the right day. I was so needy, you know. I was like responding to messages right away. I would get upset, or, you know, we're both like young people in recovery. She was also in recovery at the time too. She had 1 year, I had like 3 years. Anyway, so we just became each other's higher power, whole thing. Either way, in my mind, I think I'm behaving because I'm like, dude, I am doing all the stuff right, and I'm not fucking around at all. You know, and for a young person in recovery, it's not an easy thing to do. Right? And guess what? This girl was running all over town on me, bro. She just was. And it's not that she was a bad person. She was just a human being, and she was going through her own stuff. And maybe I was too overbearing. This is what I believe if I'm looking back at it in hindsight, because she wasn't getting anything from me. I wasn't paying any bills. I wasn't do any of that stuff, you know. So it wasn't a financial arrangement. A few times she stayed over my house when, like, she was having problems at home with her mom or whatever. So maybe I was like a little bit of like a safety net in that way. Like, she would never be on the street, as long as, in my mind, she was my girlfriend, but I guess it was something else. And maybe I was one of a few of her boyfriends, and that's fine. There's no judgment. And I have love for this person right now. You know, they're no longer with us on this earth, but I do. Just from the experience, you know. And she was a good cookie, and it's very hard. It's very hard for people not to like her, and very few people did not like her because she was cool. But either way, bro, when I found out that, that she was seeing other people, I didn't want to believe it. And my boys try to drag me out of the relationship. They're like, dude, this is like, and these are my AA boys. So they are like my AA brothers that I got sober with, and even the ones that I've accumulated over time. They have no problem, unadulterated truth to me. They're like, listen, we ain't seen it, but we know it. And you know it, but you don't want to face it. So then finally it all spills out all over the place, and it's a mess, and I'm fucking, what am I doing, man? I'm like wallowing in self-pity and whatever. And I go into a depression for a few weeks. My mom comes to my apartment and buys me a couple of plants, shows up. She's like, yeah, this is like crazy. I go, I see my pop. I talk to him about it. He's like, he gave me a nice stern talking to. He says, who do you think you are? After I just sat there and just cried. Not cried at all. But like basically, yeah. I dumped it. I threw up all over his desk in his office. He's like, who do you think you are? What do you think? You're above the rest of us? That this kind of stuff never happens? It happens to everybody. That's it. Wake up. You know? Now to think that I was in this much emotional pain, and I was in a lot of emotional pain. I was in so much pain, dude, because, it was my first rodeo. And it didn't last. It was like 6 months or less. But it was like intense because it was my first one. And I had let go. What did I do? All of the bad things in recovery. It can be a job. It can be the gym. It can be anything. But it just happened to be a chick at this moment. That a little bit at a time, they got all my attention. They took me, they didn't take me away from the rooms. A little bit at a time, I started being pulled away from the rooms because of my ego and all of my other stuff and my, desire to be needed or something. I don't know. But I stopped going to meetings. That's what the first thing they do when they come back after relapse. They say, hey, I stopped going to meetings. That's the first thing I did. Fired my first sponsor. Not even fired him. I just stopped answering the phone, and he never really called me. But if I didn't call him for a couple of days, he would call me and be like, bro, where the hell are you? You got to be checking in, right? Checking in is just letting people know you're okay and that kind of stuff and keeping people in your life. It's not like a parole officer. And if you don't show up somewhere for a while, people will start looking for you like, hey, we want to make sure you're okay. It's out of love. They don't get anything by it, but yo, bro, we love you. So I ghosted him. And then I found myself in that emotional pain and people who I was still in contact with, they helped me through that. And it was bad. And I remember and then I started going back to meetings. And then when I went into the meeting, this, my homegirl, Karen, we call her Spanish Karen, even though she's not really Spanish, but she's Spanish. She's so awesome. I love this girl so much. I shouldn't say girl. She's a lady, a woman. I love this woman, this lady so much. She's like an older sister to me. I have a few. And I'm close with her because of this day in my life, because of this day. I came back to the meeting and I just went and I stood there and I couldn't say anything and everybody knew what had happened. And I just stood there with that look on my face. I was like, that look of like, wow, this is betrayal of my idea of 2 + 2 is 4. Not just that this girl was whatever, but that kind of betrayal that I thought I had it figured out because I had the right job and I had the right apartment and I was doing everything right, that it should go my way, and that it didn't, and it blew up on me. And that I knew I could not drink or drug my way through it. I had to just sit there and endure and take it and whatever. So that was the look I had on my face in the meeting. I didn't say anything to anybody. Did I? No, because, it was bad. I went to the meeting with Uncle Eddie, and he shared a little bit about it, because it was very bad at the end. Like, it was bad. Like, we had to do like, oh, man, what did I just do? Okay, we're all right. Yeah, so we had to do like we basically almost had to save this girl's life because she went out there and started using it again. It was just fucking bad. Like an intervention kind of thing. Either way. So I had this blank look on my face that you can imagine that I had. And Karen came up to me, and I couldn't even share anything at the meeting. And she just came up to me afterwards outside of the wood over there on 20th Street. And she was like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I'm letting you know it's going to be okay. And she just gave me a hug. She didn't need to know. She could see the pain in my face. And she just gave me a hug and said, everything, it's all going to be okay. It's going to pass. Just stay close. Stay close. Stay close. And it did. And it passed. And whatever. And then I would have to be in a meeting. And I would raise my hand and I would share about it. You know, not name specific or anything like that. Because I'm not in the business of hurting, hurting other people's feelings in recovery or out of the rooms or whatever. But I went to the meetings. I went to different meetings and I shared about it. I shared about it with my friends. I shared about it at diners. I shared about it with my sponsor. Just the pain of having to go through that kind of breakup or whatever. Yeah. Sober. Stark raving, like not one drop. You can't, because if I pick up a drink, a beer, or whatever over that, or over anything else, it almost cost me my life to even get here. And for those of you who know me before, you can attest and tell anybody else and say, hey, listen, I know who this guy is who has this show, and I promise you, this guy's a 12th degree black belt, drug addict, alcoholic, maniac. He's funny and he's good to be around and whatever and that kind of stuff, but he's an animal, and it's good for everybody else that he's in recovery, you know. So imagine if I'm in meetings and I'm in this much pain that my perception is that my life depends on it, and it might. It might. If I was connected as connected as I was to the rooms at that time, I would have definitely drank. So thank God, even the little bit I had left was still a lot, you know, compared to others. And I knew where to go and I knew what to do, and I knew I just had to get through it, not on my own, but with the help of my brothers and sisters and everything. And let me tell you, if there was some fuck in a meeting talking about, no, man, you cannot talk about that kind of stuff here. We have to talk about page 417, or we have to talk about this other stuff or whatever. You know, the shit that's in the book. We got to talk about the book, and we got to talk about drinking. You know, other people, they call these kinds of things, which are called life, they call it outside issues. You know, those are, when somebody says this is an outside issue, right away, I'm like, oh, this person is a zero. There are no outside issues. Life is why we drink. Some idiot who doesn't know anything about recovery, even if they're in recovery, they'll say, no, I drink because I'm an alcoholic. That's bullshit. Because I'm stone cold sober when I take that first drink. I'm not drunk when I take the first drink. I am stone cold sober, and I have an inability to deal with what is going on in my life at that moment, in reality or in perception, in future or in past or wherever. Whatever's going on, I don't want to feel it, and that's why I drink. I cannot stop drinking once I start, and that is because I'm an alcoholic. But I am a sober man when I pick up that first one. So that's what this stuff is about. This stuff is about regular life shit. Learning how to put something together. You know, I learned how to not steal at work. I learned how to not have those kinds of expectations on my partners, meaning that they have to be perfect, and those expectations on myself. I learned how to not cheat on women. I learned a lot of things, a little bit at a time, and I learned about them by going to meetings and talking about them, talking about my difficulties with them. Nothing makes me laugh more than when I hear somebody in a meeting, or like this was maybe a couple of months ago on like Friday night over there at the Wood. And there was like, and it was so good to see, right? It was so good to see. There was like a handful of kids, and it's all young people over there now. I don't even fucking know any of them really. I'm trying to get to know them, And it's, I'm the leftover now that the pandemic's over. It's a whole new brood of people, a whole new flower pot. That's what I called it once at the men's meeting. Everybody laughed. It's like a whole new flower pot, right? So there was like 4 people, youngish in age, and definitely young in sobriety. 100 days, 70 days, 42 days, whatever. And they were doing all the things that I was doing in the beginning. They were coming to meetings. And then it was a Friday night, and after that meeting, they were going to go to another meeting together, and they're hanging out together. They're going to the diners together. They're going to eat. They're going to chill. They're going to have good, positive fun. Meetings are a lot of fun. If you're an alcoholic, it's great. And even if you're not, meetings are incredible. Sorry, I have I don't have the hiccups yet, but they're probably coming. Either way. So I'm listening to them, and they're just talking like they're on that pink cloud. They're like, yeah, everything, blah, 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 blah. We're doing this. And I was like, oh, dip. Sounds like me and my boys when we showed up. When I got to Brooklyn, I had about 8 months, and I'm in a crew of guys. We all got sober together, and even some of the girls that like nobody fucked around with that, were still around. And we would go to diners together, and we'd go, oh my God, we would go sing karaoke together after meetings. We would do all this shit, learn how to have a lot of fun. Either way, so they're saying all this stuff, and they're talking about, they're on the pink cloud. And they're just like, yeah, man, blah, 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 life is everything. And they're saying all the right AA slogans, all the right talk. Yeah, but, works if you work it, first things first, blah, blah, blah. All this shit, all this positive stuff. And I'm like, dude, let me wake them up a little bit, and just let them know that if you're going to be in a meeting and this is where you have to save your ass, not your face. That's what you're here for. You are here to save your ass. So they didn't have a speaker, and then they asked me to speak, and I'm like, okay. And it's like a beginner's meeting. So I spoke a little bit about how crazy I felt in the beginning of my recovery, how crazy I was. That it took me years to get my life together, that I had all these insecurities and then all this other identifiable stuff that everybody could laugh with and blah, blah, blah. Like, I used to have such a, it's an emotional high when you come out of a meeting. It's specifically a really good one, but regardless, any meeting. But if you're in a really good meeting, speaker's good, or you're going through the literature and you're learning good, you spend an hour just really juicing up on spirituality and love. I used to have to make this rule to myself that if I was single and I was dating somebody, I could not even communicate with them until maybe 2 hours after the meeting. Like I just couldn't. I would be on such a high. I'd be like, you know what? My life is so good, because you get this perspective shift. Like alcoholics and drug addicts, a lot of times where like we're programmed to just be fucking negative and be delusional. So that's like the thing. So you have negativity and delusion. And maybe there are things to be negative about, but your delusion is really what causes a lot of the negativity. So when you go to a meeting and then people help you reset that perspective about what's going on in your life, it's like a high. You're like, oh my God, you know what? Maybe this chick is the one. Maybe this job is whatever, right? So I would make a rule for myself because I would be so high. Like, yo, I can't text this girl until tomorrow. Or I say, hey, how you doing? Good night, boom. And then I go do whatever I got to do with my people, hang out with my son, and then I'll hit them tomorrow. Because I'll be so high that I would overextend myself because of that emotional high and say shit that the next day maybe, or the next month maybe, might not really be true. Not true. It was true in the moment that everything was good, but, that's how crazy I was. If you want to call it, you want to use that word crazy, but that's how it was for me. So I would have to, they would say, no, don't, not saying like playing a game, don't text them back or whatever. They would just say, listen, obviously I learned. I say, look, I'm going to the meeting, then I'm going to go do this with my people. When I'm done, I'm going to go to the diner, then I'm going to go home, watch boxing, whatever. And I'll hit you up tomorrow, unless you want to meet up later or something like that. Whatever. Not like TMI shit, but just normal, regular 28, 30, 31-year-old people stuff. So I couldn't just disappear. I had to learn that I couldn't just disappear. But I also had to learn to be honest with myself that I had to wait for me to calm down before I could have any kind of rational conversation with somebody. Dude, I know people that they would be on those kind of highs and would fucking want to quit their job. They'd be like, dude, you know what? I'm just going to fuck this place. I'm just going to quit and I'm going to go do this. And we're like, whoa, no. If you want to leave your job, leaving and quitting a job is not the same thing if you don't know. Leaving a job requires a plan. You say, okay, I'm going to leave. I made a decision that I'm going to try and leave this job. Not I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. You go in there, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. Step 3, I'm in the hands of the Lord and it's all going to work out. It's actually, even though you may be liberating yourself, it's actually a very selfish thing to do because there are other people in your workspace that are now going to have to make up the work for you that are, you're making somebody else's life harder for your own freedom, which is not recovery. That's not what it is. That's not to thine own self be true. That's not. So if you have good people around you, they will say, okay, well, make a plan. First things first, stack some chips. Let's say you have and then you stack the chips, right? Then you start looking for what do I really feel like doing? What do I want to do? And then as you're going to the job that you don't like, it's not all of a sudden you stop hating it so much because you know that you're on your way out and you're making plans for your life to be different. And that is a very sober activity. And that is real recovery. And there's nowhere in the book that teaches you how to do that. That is from people that are in your life that will teach you that this is the right thing to do. Like a lot of times that, sometimes the book will say, people who pound on the book, the big book will be like, these are clear-cut directions and I don't do any extra homework. I pray when it says to pray. I write when it says to write, and that's it. But it doesn't show you that, hey, look, if you have self-respect and integrity, that you don't just walk out on your job. You just don't do that. You just don't. Because you want to leave. Not because like they're abusing you or whatever, and also, whatever, that kind of stuff. And even then, it's not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. So, you make a plan. You say, okay, after 30 days, I'm going to have this much money set aside. I'm going to start sending feelers out there and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, and then you let that blossom. And then you go and you give notice. And then you talk to them and say, and you're grateful for the opportunity, even if you hated it, even if you never want to go back. Learn that everything doesn't have to be burned to the ground for you to walk away. And that's the other thing you learn. There's a difference between running away and walking away. Running away is I quit. Walking away is I'm leaving. One is like integrity, self-respect, respect for the other person. One of them will leave you without guilt, shame, and remorse. The I quit and the running away is where guilt, shame, and remorse will live. And that will bring you closer to a drink. So these are the things that need to be spoken about at meetings. Not what this stupid animal was talking about. That's how I know that he didn't have it. Because he goes to meetings where you can't talk about that stuff. And that's not that's his brand of recovery, and it works for him. And if he's happy, congratulations. For me, that ain't it. That ain't it. And that's okay that that's it for them, but that ain't it for me. I got my own way of doing stuff. And it's rooted in 12 steps. And that's where it all comes from. So either way, I want to thank you all again for listening. I'm going to tap out now, but I love you all. We have some really good shit coming down the pipe. The conversations I have with the people on my show, it's genuine. I got to stop saying that my show. It's our show. Excuse me. I'll get it right one of these years. I promise. 2 things I promise. I'm not going to stop. The show is not stopping. Like, it's just not. And B, I'm going to continue to try and do my best. But these conversations go well because I know these people. These are people who are in my life. These are people who I love. These are people who, I'm interested in them on a personal level. They're not somebody who, I heard speaking at a meeting one time and he had a great story, because everybody can get up there, you say the right things, and you tell enough jokes, everybody laughs. Oh my God, such a great speaker. But yeah, there's no substance. Sometimes they're just spitting out war stories and slogans, But when you're talking about the things that I just spoke about, that's what really connects with people. So I'll end with, after I said some of that stuff at the beginner meeting, to bring it back to those day counting people, each one of those kids said, "Thank you so much. That was the best qualification I've ever heard," which I doubt. Hopefully they heard somebody better by now. But they said, "I am crazy too. And I'm losing my mind, but I'm staying sober, and I'm working with a sponsor, and I have this problem and this problem. And I am going to the meeting, and I'm happy right now, but like, I feel fucking crazy. So thank you for saying that you are crazy without drinking and drugging." And I was like, "You're welcome. Just please keep coming, And that's it. And whenever you see me, know that you have a brother, that I'm here. And I'm going to, I can give you one of those AA hugs, or I can give you like a few minutes of my time, 3 or 5 minutes, all I got. You guys can't be giving me no fucking ear beatings. Say that for people with more time on their hands. I'm a busy guy because I have a busy life. And it's mine. So, all right. Love you all. Peace. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And please don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms, and find us on Facebook, where you can become part of our family. We'll see you around.